Thanks very much. A few years ago, I was asked about the challenges of AI, and I said I thought there were three over different timeframes. The first is the immediate one that we have of issues of truth and deep fakes and validity of information. The second was the issue of work and the fact that work is going to change. And it was an area that, in my opinion, governments weren't paying enough attention to, thinking about how this was going to change over time and what needed to be done to make sure that this was something that would benefit everybody. And the third was of the unknown future issues of things like autonomous harm and how that might affect society, which we just simply don't know enough about. So it's great to be here today at the launch of what I'm sure is going to be an influential report. And the timing's good. 2 weeks ago, the Prime Minister launched the government's response to the AI Opportunities Action Plan and said we're taking forward all 50 recommendations as part of our commitment to seize the opportunities of AI, to fix deficits in the UK economy and to deliver public services that are fit for the future. And we welcome the rigorous work that's been done to assess both the opportunities and the impacts of AI on the future of work and, importantly, as has been said, on well-being. And we welcome that this has been done at the level of systems, firms and individuals. It is that holistic approach which is important, and it's important that we take a human-centred approach. What is clear is that the need for a comprehensive approach is evident. We want to maximise the opportunities of AI and address the inevitable challenges caused by technological disruption and ensure that the benefits are felt by the entire UK workforce. Today, what I want to do is talk a little bit about how the government's addressing a few of the core themes that I know have been identified in the review. And in particular, I want to focus on some of the areas where AI can impact jobs, and I will deal with standards and governance, skills, well-being, and regional disparities. Recent years, and no surprises here, have seen an extraordinary progress in artificial intelligence. And we know that harnessed effectively, AI must have the potential to transform the lives of people, bringing about economic renewal, boosting living standards for people across the country. And the government is optimistic about these opportunities. But if we're to adopt and use AI, businesses, consumers, workers, citizens need to know that it is safe, reliable, and trustworthy. And this means that we must have the right rules in place to ensure the responsible development and use of AI. We must think about how to embrace innovation in the AI sector whilst creating a proportionate regulatory approach that can keep pace with what is a rapidly evolving technology. The government believes that the vast majority of AI systems should be regulated at the point of use. The UK has expert regulators who are very well placed to apply the rules to the use of AI in the context that they know better than anyone else. And that's why, in the published response to the AI Opportunities Action Plan, the government reaffirmed its commitment to supporting regulators in evaluating their own AI capabilities and understanding how these can be strengthened. And of course, it's not just the regulators who need to know more. A flourishing AI assurance system is critical to giving consumers, industry, and regulators confidence that AI systems work and are used as intended. The UK, in fact, is rather good at AI governance and responsible AI adoption. Our AI assurance market already generates an estimated £1 billion and is looking ahead, will itself actually be a key driver of economic growth. Indeed, the UK's assurance market is expected to reach £6.5 billion by 2035. To accelerate growth, build industry confidence, and unlock widespread adoption of responsible AI, the government's committed to developing an AI assurance platform for businesses. This will provide organisations with the building blocks for responsible AI development and deployment, unlocking widespread adoption whilst ensuring the benefits of AI are shared widely and appropriately. But even with measures to ensure responsible AI development and adoption, we of course acknowledge that AI will transform jobs and the wider labour market in the years to come. Jobs in AI itself, jobs using AI, jobs inevitably disrupted and changed by AI. Between 2021 and 23, job postings requiring AI skills already accounted for over 2% of all job adverts across the UK economy, and that is accelerating very fast. With 1.7 million people employed in AI-relevant occupations as of July 23, and a projected employment increase of 13% by 2035, the sector's growth is very clear. But we know that there is a gap between the demand for AI skills and the current level of supply. Essential skills required for AI are relevant to many occupations, and employers are increasingly fishing from a small pool of suitable candidates. In 2022, the Employment Skills Survey noted that there are 3 occupations most relevant to supporting AI itself, where over 50% of vacancies were due to skills shortages. Those are design and development engineers, engineering professionals, and IT specialist managers. Small businesses, which constitute 99% of the UK's business population, struggle to compete for AI professionals, not least due to a 14% wage premium associated with AI skills. This economic barrier necessitates improvements to essential digital skills right the way across the board. And gender disparity remains a significant issue, with only 22% of those employed in AI-relevant occupations being women, compared to 48% across all occupations. This lack of diversity in the AI ecosystem can result in harmful feedback loops of social bias being built into machine learning systems. The government will begin to address these inequalities, and I will just in passing say the point that was made about the role of DCIT being not just a vertical department, but a horizontal department across government is absolutely right. This is what is required in an area of rapid changing science, technology, and of course AI. So the government will begin to address these inequalities by increasing the number and diversity of students studying AI from school right the way through to higher education to address the AI skills gap and to meet growing demands. As outlined in the AI Opportunities Plan, we want to equip workers with the right skills to do the jobs of the future, which means working with industry to identify how AI can be adopted across sectors responsibly. This report, I think, is going to be absolutely crucial because it provides an evidence base. Chris and I were just talking early on, and it's quite nice to have policy informed by evidence. And it doesn't always happen. Work being undertaken by the now Government Chief Scientific Advisor and the National Technology Advisors on technology adoption will recommend actions to increase adoption of automation and AI across businesses. This will include a focus on equipping workers with the skills they need for the jobs, both within and with AI, and will build a better picture of gaps in our talent pool. Over 2025, Skills England will be working closely with DCIT and the Industrial Skills Council to bring businesses, training partners and unions together with national and local government to develop a clear assessment of the country's skills needs for AI and map the pathways by which they can be filled. And there is some urgency in this. I mean, this isn't something that can take years to get right. Changes to the labour market are to be expected, and we absolutely must remain mindful of them and their impact on people in work and those seeking work. Where people do face disruption in their role, the government will support people into work and provide comprehensive support for people to find employment and access skills training. My view is that we should always remember that one aim of AI should be to increase the time available for the things that only humans can do, especially human-human interaction. And I've looked at that very carefully from my own professional background of medicine. It can't be about displacing everything. It has to be about, in that case, increasing the very thing that has that effect on well-being and health, which is human-human interaction. It should not aim simply to displace humans, but enhance the role that they can play. A labour market priority for the government is to ensure that people continue to have access to good, meaningful work. This involves adapting structural changes in the labour market now and in the long term. The government's plan to make work pay makes clear that workers' interests will need to inform the digital transformation that's taking place in the workplace. Our approach to new technologies is to protect good jobs, enable good future jobs, and ensure rights and protections keep pace with technological change. Not easy, given the pace of change. Safeguarding against discrimination and putting the worker's voice at the heart of Britain's digital transition. The plan to make work pay includes two specific proposals on technology and surveillance. One, to examine what AI and new technologies mean for work, jobs and skills, again informed by this crucial and authoritative report. And two, to safeguard against invasions of privacy by making the introduction of surveillance technologies in the workplace subject to consultation and negotiation with trade union or employee representatives. We will be consulting on how to implement these measures in an upcoming consultation. We're committed to strengthening collaborative domestic and international relationships with a spirit of real partnership and building strong ties with partners across the AI sectors. The government will continue to engage with all relevant stakeholders in relation to the potential impact of new technologies on the workplace, including civil society, trade unions and business. Under existing data protection law, organisations are already required to carry out data protection impact assessments for any monitoring activities which are likely to result in high risks to the rights and freedoms of employees. We're seeking to strengthen data protection law by introducing a new bill, the Data Use and Access Bill, to unlock the power of data to improve people's lives, help create a modern digital government and grow the economy. The measures in the bill, such as new smart data schemes, digital verification services, and the National Underground Asset Register, will support innovation and growth and empower customers across a range of markets. And these measures, importantly, will be underpinned by a revamped Information Commissioner's Office with a new structure and powers of enforcement, ensuring people's personal data will be protected to high standards. Existing data protection legislation and the proposed reforms will ensure there will be stringent safeguards in place for individuals when significant decisions are made about them using automation, including in the workplace. And looking out, and you can't do this, but I can, looking out from the tallest building in the UK, it would be remiss not to talk about how we can ensure the benefits of technological advancements reach people in all corners of our country. And that's why we're launching the AI growth zones across the UK, which will be dedicated hotbeds of AI development, where government support and private investment will rapidly accelerate the construction of data centres and the infrastructure needed to power and train cutting-edge AI. The growth zones are designated areas that will rapidly accelerate AI data centre development and the needed infrastructure, and ensure that this crosses all communities as we harness the benefits of what is undoubtedly a revolutionary technology. But, as Chris has said, it's not the same as previous ones. It does have differences, and it's important those differences are recognised. By focusing government support on planning and energy and committing to scaling each zone, for example, to 500 megawatts of power in collaboration with network operators, these zones will create local jobs, attract significant private investment, and strengthen the UK's global AI leadership, delivering opportunities for work right the way across the country. And it's worth reflecting that we are currently the third country in the world in terms of the investment in new companies and startups and growing companies in AI. These growth zones will help us deliver secure, dedicated public sector computing power that will be necessary to help drive forward AI innovations. And regional growth is, of course, one of the objectives of the industrial strategy. The strategy will unleash the full potential of our cities and regions by attracting investment and creating the best environments for business to thrive. It will concentrate efforts on places with the greatest potential for growth-driving sectors, city regions, high-potential clusters, strategic industrial sites. But it will spread far more widely than that. It will take advantage of the UK's unique strength and untapped potential, enable the UK's world-leading sectors to adapt and grow, and seize opportunities to lead in new sectors with high-quality, well-paid jobs. All of that requires thinking about in terms of skills, works, job, how we actually do this. After 14 years of living standards essentially stagnating, only bold bets will pay off. And that's why we really welcome the AI Opportunities Plan, and of course this report to help us get it right, and why we're taking immediate action to take forward the 50 recommendations as part of the plan for change. AI does have the potential to change lives, but for too long we've been curious and often cautious bystanders. That changes now. We will become the agents of that change. We will capture AI's full benefits and turn them into real opportunities. And those opportunities must be for everybody. The wealth generated must be shared, and the opportunities must be there for working people. Thank you.
Lord Vallance has kindly said he'd take a couple of questions, so if there's any, please do raise a hand. Chris, please, yeah.
Can you tell us something more about the AI growth zones?
Yeah. So the idea of the AI growth zones, and the first one will be in Culham, is to try and create an infrastructure and a series of opportunities in relation to planning and other things that allow the facilities needed to have not only data centers but small companies, the application of the output of AI in those zones as well, and to create the power and environmental conditions necessary to make this work effectively. So the reason Culham was chosen as the first one is that is the site of the nuclear fusion work that's going on, and it has 100 megawatts of power that's available to do this. So it's already there. Now we need 500 megawatts of power, so there's more to be done, but there are opportunities there to grow that. Other growth zones will be spread around the countries, and we'll start to develop a whole host of different jobs, new jobs, and we hope not only with the infrastructure of the data centers, but also the startup of companies around that, relating to every aspect of what those zones will deliver.
Clearly we need AI for GDP growth, that's the priority. But the biggest industry in Britain is in fact the National Health Service. 180 billion, 1.4 million people. To what extent is the strategy, the industrial strategy, going to be focusing on helping the NHS release the AI potential of it, and therefore save the country hopefully a bit of money in the future to spend on investment in business?
Well, I think Wes Streeting's been very clear about his three areas, and one of which is from analog to digital. And in that, of course, there's all sorts of things around data and access to data. But AI is already part of that. And you can see it beginning to do the things that I talked about. You can read scans much more easily now with AI than having somebody just ploughing through lots of scans. You still need humans to look at some of these things and to be able to be part of it. You can do certain types of pathology much more easily. There was a rather wonderful story actually from Harvard of, I think it was the MIT, where really world-leading geneticists, clinical geneticists, were faced with a child that they didn't really know what was wrong with the child. And they put the information into what was, I think, GPT-4 and asked the question, what's the most likely genetic problem? And the answer came back, well, I can't tell you the most likely, but I can tell you some of them that might be worth looking at. And first on the list was a particular gene defect. They tested for it, and that was the cause. And these were real experts, and this was helping them do something that probably would have taken weeks or months to get to the bottom of and to come up with a cause. So I think AI is going to do everything in healthcare, from improving processes, the ways hospitals run, the way the efficiency of the system works, through to high-end diagnostic assistance in it. And I think there's no doubt that this has to be a big part of the NHS reform plan.
Gina, thanks.
There are concerns in the British creative industries about what a text and data mining exception would look like. So how are we going to ensure that AI growth does not come at the cost to the intellectual property rights of the large British creative sector?
Yeah, that's important. It's obviously a very live topic, and it's why we've got a consultation out on that very topic with very broad areas covered, which is due to finish in end of February. And it's very important people feed into that, because this is a very important area to get right. I mean, just to be clear, the copyright on the output of AI is very obvious. I mean, you can't copy things, full stop. So that's clear. The debate is around the inputs, in other words, the training areas. And if you look at countries like Japan, Singapore, and South Korea, they've taken a view that the use of or the access to things for training models is non-consumptive and outside copyright. So they're very clear on one end of the spectrum. The US has a sort of fair use approach, which is being tested in gazillion court cases across the US, and it's unclear which way that's going to go. And we need some sort of certainty to allow this to work properly. And we need to provide control to creatives of their IP and their creations. We need to make sure that there's accessibility, because if we close off, we're going to be the laggard in the world in this. So we do need to be able to have accessibility, and we need transparency. And that's the key thing. There are now technologies to allow transparency, to say, well, what have you taken? Where has it gone? And what the output was. So I think those things together form the foundation of the consultation. It's very important we do that consultation, and we don't rush into knee-jerk reactions on this. And it's important that we recognise, and it's no surprise that the creative industry is one of the sectors in the industrial strategy. The government's very keen to protect that. But we've got to do it sensibly, we've got to do it in the right way, and we've got to actually get the information to be able to do this in a way that's easy, machine reading, so you can't have people sort of saying, with a bit of paper, I've got something, it just won't work. It has to be a machine-readable version to be able to do this properly.
We have a question from Edinburgh, from one of our satellites. Can you give us a bit more detail on what you mean by an AI assurance platform for business? What does this look like in practice?
So this is the many companies that have started up which help other companies work out whether what they're putting in place is actually a system that does what it's supposed to do. And there are some standards developing around this. And this is going to be increasingly important. Otherwise, it becomes completely chaotic, and you end up with things being used which don't work, which don't actually meet the specification, that can't do what's required. So that assurance industry around AI products is becoming quite a big thing, and I'm sure will become a bigger thing over time, as I said, and will be important. And the government itself is doing some work also to make sure for the government applications of AI, we've got a means to test that they actually do what you say within the bandwidths that you want it to. I think the risk of having completely unregulated, unassured use of this is quite high, because you get a backlash, things won't work properly, they won't actually deliver what's required, and also, of course, it could cause problems if you've got things like inherent bias built in.
I think we've got a question from our satellite in Cornwall as well. Over to Harry, if you can unmute.
Thanks, Kester. I'm going to throw it open to our floor. Matthew Thompson here has a question.
Thank you. Good morning, and excellent opening. Can I ask, when you talk about clusters and the interrelationships between the growth zones and the capabilities and skills zones, are you looking at adopting AI principles of, for instance, holonic, decentralized approaches, which might therefore allow rural participation in what you've otherwise described as fairly metropolitan opportunities?
Yeah, absolutely. And welcome, Penryn. I grew up a couple of miles down the road, so I know it very well. Yes, the review that's being undertaken by the Government Chief Scientific Advisor and National Technology Advisor is precisely about adoption of AI broadly across the country, what needs to happen. And I've got no doubt that needs to be locally led. It needs to be locally led together with universities and others to make sure that we have a system to share knowledge, to make sure we do a bit of hand-holding at a sort of sensible local level as this goes on, because this is going to be something that needs to be right the way across the country, not something highly localised. That said, there are bits that will be highly localised. I mean, you're not going to have the invention of very, very high-tech things everywhere in the country. They may be, in some places, more likely to occur. So I think we need to do both of those things. And the more we can get this distributed, the more we can get this locally owned and locally delivered, the greater the chance that we can deal with some of the things that we know we have as issues in the UK. We have a long tail of low productivity related to low uptake of technologies. This could be an opportunity to tackle that. It could be an opportunity to allow small businesses and others to get right in the forefront of this and to use this to improve their performances. So long answer, simple answer is yes, local is crucially important.
Got time for one more question. Yes.
Nina Jordan, University of Cambridge. I'm wondering how the AI growth agenda is in conflict with all the environmental goals that we are having, given that a ChatGPT question takes up, I don't know, 10, 20, up to 90 times more energy than a standard Google search. So how is the government thinking of linking these quite conflicting goals together?
It's precisely why, as part of the action plan, we're creating the Energy Council, which is jointly between the Secretary of State for DESNZ and the Secretary of State for DCIT, to look at the entire process of how we get these things supported, because it's going to have to be renewable energy. There are obviously lots of talks about things including small modular reactors to provide output for this, and it's going to have to take into account things like water and other environmental impacts. There are lots of technological advances that are occurring, like closed-loop systems for water, like separating heat and cold in data centres to make sure it's used properly, and of course massive efficiency gains occurring in the hardware itself. So there's a lot going on, but that council is precisely to recognise that very important point. This can't be a sort of put a 500 megawatt data center in and then worry about what's going to happen afterwards. It has to be done at the same time to get this right.
Many, many thanks to Lord Vallance. Thank you so much.